Live from the Rock Sports Network studios in Rochester, New York, it's your Rochester Sports Show, Rochester Sports Mumblings!
All right.
With your hosts, Matt Goldman and John Cargill. Now here's your host, Matt Goldman.
Oh, thank
right.
you.
Thanks,
Thank
Patrick.
you, Patrick. That was wonderful. Thank
Always
you
good
once
at
again.
announcing.
Awesome announcing job. Guys, welcome to another edition of Sports Mumblings. We are very excited to be joined by a special guest in studio today, the Chief Operating Officer of the Rochester Rattlers, Brad Ford. Thank you so much for
welcome to
coming
the show,
in today.
Brad.
This is very exciting to have you in. We're going to be talking a lot of Rattlers lacrosse today. Also, Tony Walls from the Rochester Rhinos is joining us on the phone at 2:30. If you're listening live, if you're listening to a replay, just check in about halfway through the episode for the Tony Walls interview. Should be a very exciting episode. Brad, thank you for joining us. You reached out to us, which was really cool. We had Tim Sudan on last week.
Very good interview, too.
He was excellent. And, we do have a lot of questions about what's going on with the Rattlers, and you said you'd probably be able to fill us in. First of all, I was shocked to hear that the Rattlers were not going to play at Sahlen Stadium this year, moving to Brockport to play at Eunice Shriver Stadium. Eunice Shriver Kennedy Stadium?
Yeah, Kennedy.
Yeah. Eunice Kennedy Shriver.
Eunice Kennedy Shriver Stadium. Okay, all right.
It's a long one.
Okay.
We just like to say Shriver Stadium now that we've taken it over. So.
Okay. Simplify it is the best.
I wasn't surprised, but me and him have a differing opinion. I was actually happy to hear that.
I heard.
Very happy.
I was listening, which is why I'm here to clarify.
So, what happened with that?
Well, to give you a little bit of insight into it, my position now, I've only had the team for a little over a year. And, one of my number one goals is to make sure that I'm looking out for every optimistic financial opportunity I can, from whether it's where we buy stamps to what lease we signed. So every other month, for the last year, we always look at different opportunities. We always look at different opportunities to see where we can get good deals for our franchise. Certainly a lease in all sports environments, a lease deal is one of the most important facets that you could possibly have. So, it wasn't as big of a surprise for us that we may or may not be at Sahlen's. Last season, I did my due diligence. We looked at a lot of venues throughout the area. And I mean, when I say a lot, I mean pretty much any viable venue that had a turf field. I looked into, I vetted, I researched, and we really kind of omitted pretty much every possibility except for maybe one or two. And there was a point when, and it wasn't about us leaving Sahlen's, but it was about what if we weren't able to host games there? What if we couldn't come to terms at some point? We tried to listen to some of the feedback of fans over the years. I've only been here about a year and a month with the team itself, but I know the history of it. I know some of the concerns with the stadium, whether they're viable concerns or not. They are concerns, and you have to listen to your fan base. So as through that process, we really felt, after dealing with Major League Lacrosse and talking to the commissioner, I personally felt that going back to Sahlen's, building on what we had built on last year, which we ended up, ending the season quite well from where we began. And, we wanted to go back. I had a verbal agreement with the stadium that we would be coming back. It was very clear in my understanding that there wouldn't be any changes to the lease. To be very frank, we don't have one of the more attractive leases in Major League Lacrosse, and we've got teams that play in Mile High and at Gillette.
Yeah.
So for me, it's always a concern. But I was ready to go back. We have a great relationship there, and we were working things out. But unfortunately, I couldn't get a chance to sit down with them soon enough. I don't know whether it was their time schedule or whatever it was, but if you don't have two parties, you can't sit down.
Yeah,
sure.
And to be very clear and quick about it, I know I'm long-winded about this, but it's been a long process. By the time we finally were able to sit down and look at a lease, it came to fruition that the terms of the lease just were not acceptable to us. It wasn't something where it was realistic for us to move forward from both, a financial capacity and a logistical capacity. So that's when I immediately had to kind of do a 180 and look at some other opportunities, which is what led us to Brockport. And that was really like literally 3 weeks ago. So,
Wow.
we're very close to the season, obviously. But so that's the long and the short of it. Yes.
So, as far as the negotiating, was that with the city or with the Rhinos?
No. We've only negotiated, and we would only deal with it's Sahlen Stadium in our capacity, because they host both the Rhinos and the Flash and some other events. So it's the front office of the stadium operations that I deal with personally. Never have dealt with anyone from the city.
Okay. So, all right. So, how did you find Brockport then? Like, what made you attracted to the Brockport venue?
Well, to be honest with you, it was kind of a stroke of good luck, and with the urgency that I was in, the 24 hours or really the 12 hours after my meeting with Sahlen's, and I truly knew that I had to make a decision, and it was a very tough one. It was either put ourselves in a capacity where we may or may not be able to move forward at all from a financial situation to looking at what are my options. And, I'm sure if anybody has ever followed the Rattlers, our playoff game last year was held at Aquinas Institute. Fantastic people, fantastic stadium, just a wonderful environment.
That's one thing I was thinking, if you guys weren't going to play at Sahlen's, why not Aquinas? Because that seemed to work out pretty well, actually, that playoff game.
Yeah, and to answer that question, along with, I know, and I've heard the feedback, 12 different places have popped up. Why didn't you go here? Oh, you should just be there. Why not just go to, let's just say, a St. John Fisher.
Sure.
So in the vetting process.
That's what John was suggesting.
Absolutely. And if I could tell you that, I could list literally 15 things that made it impossible to go there. That's my alma mater. And I have great relationships there. That was, if we weren't at Sahlen's, Fisher probably would have been one of the top ones, but I hadn't looked into Brockport yet. And Fisher became impossible because of many reasons. Most importantly, we wouldn't have been able to play a game after July 4th because of the Bills come in and take over.
Oh, right.
And that's the most important. So that omits everything.
Right.
But the facets that go into running our operations, believe it or not, and you're going to go, well, the Bills are at Fisher, but they do everything. They come in and take over.
Yeah.
With us, it's kind of the same thing. And a stadium has to have the ability to handle all aspects from an IT standpoint, right down to the color of the paint on the field and that being redone. So a lot of venues either didn't have the capacity of a turf field, didn't have the actual.
Why do you need turf though?
Okay, well, because our game has to be played on turf. That's really the direction that the league wants us to go in. So
really?
I'll say if you were
why?
to,
I'm very.
Well, I don't. I can't honestly answer that. I guess why the league has that as a mandate.
Just a
sure.
guess. Is it because lacrosse in the rain tends to destroy grass fields, and the other
I will tell you
that?
this. I would say, and
Yeah,
that was going to be my answer, that because of my experience asking and vetting these places, anybody that had a grass field put their hands up like, we don't want anything to do with
lacrosse,
it. I mean,
right?
look at what happened
Lacrosse
with
is the
Frontier Field.
That's right.
In the early days, right?
Yeah, the Rattlers were kicked out of Frontier Field because of the rain.
Right. So
I remember the game too. It was in July. It was just downpour.
I can't say that I remember.
Day, and they decided to play the game anyways. There was like 2 inches of water on the field, and after that, the Twins said, "No more. We can't have
and if you
this."
look at that too, on the flip side, even if someone did allow it, and you allowed for the financial reconstruction of the field being ruined, I don't think a team would be able to have that budgeted to be able to build into that capacity of doing it. So ultimately, to answer your question, why not Aquinas? Aquinas was looked at immediately for me, and I will tell you that to be very straightforward and honest, if I was to say going into a 3,000 seat stadium or a 2,500 seat stadium was okay for me as I look at the future of the Rattlers, I'd have to be honest and say no. So because that means that I'm limited in growth, right? So if I have to swallow the idea that, okay, maybe we started our season not so great, we built up last year, but if I don't ever have aspirations of putting more than 2,500 or 3,000 people in a stadium, then I'm limiting my options and my goals.
That actually leads me to a question.
Yes, go ahead. Yep.
Now, I know that the stadium in Brockport is about, what, 2,200?
In Brockport, it's 11,000.
11,000.
It's 11,000.
Well, with that in mind, is there any plans of adding additional seating to?
Well, we don't need to in Brockport. So in Aquinas, there was only an option of being able to put in some bleachers that would hold a few hundred across the field.
Yeah.
So that's the Aquinas answer, because yes, they were an option. Wonderful people. I can't speak enough of great things about the folks there. They took care of us. We still practice there. So that was an option, but we wanted to look at some other things too. And when I got done sitting down with the folks at Brockport, and I literally went through a litany of needs. This stadium has been updated so well over the last 3 to 4 years. And
From
if
what
you-
I hear, it's supposed to be
it's
very nice.
beautiful. And if I was to say, and I'm a very straightforward person, and because I understand the fight for people that have concerns about being a fan, finding the right kind of entertainment, I take into consideration people's feelings in that aspect. And the bleachers could be the only negative reality, the only negative about that stadium if you were to look at a stadium compared to, let's say, a Sahlen, right? So if we can get past that hurdle, if we can overcome that small little obstacle, you look at everything else, it's an amazing stadium. From an IT standpoint, for our national broadcasts on TV, it's perfect. It works for us. Brand new shot clocks, brand new turf, brand new press box, brand new everything really. The locker rooms are gorgeous.
awesome.
So, and then you put into this, then we look at the financial end of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it gets way better. It makes it beyond realistic for me to fit into as far as an option. Then you look at the kind of people that want us involved. They, by the end of the conversation, were kind of they're begging us to come there because they want to expand into doing other events other than collegiate too. So, everything fell into place. The story is still continuing on. But so far, I mean, I could not be happier, couldn't have been a better breath of fresh air for us and our organization.
That's definitely good to hear.
What kind of feedback have you heard so far from fans, from season ticket holders?
Yep.
Because I'm sure you guys sold a few season tickets before this announcement, right? I mean, were people upset that they got to drive out to because it is a bit of a drive if you do, especially if you live in the eastern suburbs. It's a bit of a drive.
I'm glad that you made that point, and here's why. And I will answer your question in a second, but I want to be very clear about something, and we can put it in the capacity of whether it be the Buffalo Bills, the Syracuse basketball, or Darien Lake. If there's an event that you're interested in going to, and you're willing to make the commitment. Distance, I can't believe, is a factor. If you can tell me the last time you went to a concert in Darien Lake and why you went, Darien Lake's not a very easy place to get in and out of. Okay. If you look at the Buffalo Bills, I have my employee lives in the Lockport area. He drives more than 45 minutes to get to a Buffalo Bills game. They don't call them the Orchard Park Bills. They call them the Buffalo Bills, right? So it's all in relativity. Now, if you were to look at concerns of some of my fans from the east side, I would absolutely sit and say, yes, it is an additional distance. It is an extra 18 minutes, right? And I am very empathetic. I feel for people when that change happens. But their argument is, why didn't you go to St. John Fisher? And I can say the same thing for the 80% of my fan base last year from the west side of Rochester. 80% from the west side of Rochester would have said the same thing.
Why? Okay, why that doesn't make? Why are 80% from the west side?
Well, I'm just saying that's factual.
Okay.
That's where our fan base for the almost 80% came from the west side of Rochester.
Is there more lacrosse on the west side?
It's a funny no.
No, there's more lacrosse on the east side.
Right. Well, it's not even more a more or less answer or conversation. It's about where they're at in the growth of their sport. So and I'm telling you right now, there are some amazing fans from Victor. I live in Fairport. The programs there are second to none.
Sure,
Pittsford, Brighton,
Fairport,
they're
yeah.
amazing,
Victor,
right? How strong are those programs? But I think in reality, at times there's a different mindset possibly with when you look at our game, right? The outdoor professional game. I don't believe in my experience and doing my research, there has been as high level of interest in this pro game from groups of people or the market demographics that are much farther in the growth of their programs, which is why professional teams they struggle in big Division I areas because those Division I fans, they're lacrosse fans, but they're lacrosse fans of that Division I game.
Yeah.
Right.
They aren't really focused on the pro game. Now, why?
I know
have no
because
idea,
the
right?
pro game to me is a heck of a lot more exciting than college lacrosse is great.
Sure.
But I love the pro game.
It's
I
the
love
highest level of lacrosse
it is in the world. And
I think
love
part of the problem.
I love the 2-point goals. I love the shot clock. The game moves. I think some of the hits you see are huge. You're not going to see these hits in college.
Right.
I just think it's a better game.
And what I was
overall.
going to say is, as a lacrosse player myself, I think that's part of the problem. It's almost a different game than people are used to seeing.
Sure.
And that's the thing. And I'm sure you played lacrosse as well.
I actually didn't until I did work for the Nighthawks back in the 90s, and that's how I learned the game.
A lot of people who grow up playing and who play high school, youth league, and college, this is not the same game that you see. It's And they, like my cousins, they play lacrosse and they're big into it, and they won't really go to the games. It's like one of those, I'll go, I guess. And then I say, I'm like, why don't you go? I mean, it's like, it's just like they'd rather go to an SU game. They'd rather go to a Hobart game.
Mhm.
And just like you said, D1 college, especially in this area, has taken that niche. And I keep thinking, like, how to make it appeal more to the purist,
Sure.
lacrosse purist fans. And it's kind of one of those things where, because I enjoy, like, for example, I love box lacrosse, and, I love every form
Sure.
of it.
Yeah, me too.
But some people are very, stick to the purists. I'd rather drive all the way to Syracuse and come watch this. And
also to that point, like, the Nighthawks are, they've been here since '96.
Mhm.
They're a staple in the city.
Yeah.
Why do you think that the Nighthawks are able to draw pretty well? They don't draw even close to what they used to,
Yeah,
Right,
but
definitely.
pretty well still. But the Rattlers are just an afterthought. It doesn't make sense
Well,
to me.
It's a good question.
yeah, it absolutely is, and it's a very popular question, but there's a few things to take into consideration that the general fan doesn't. And I do want to go back and say that my earlier comments weren't really singling out the East Side lacrosse fans. I think there's a point there. Our research shows that smaller upcoming programs on the west side is where kids are getting their interest to come
Okay.
out and watch this game. So I just wanted to clarify.
Okay, yeah,
Which
that
makes
sense.
perfect sense.
It does make perfect sense.
As I was
It
saying
really
with
does.
that point, the people who grew up
Yep.
with it, dad did it,
Yep.
versus, Gates Chili or, Churchville, they had a
They're
program
just finding
for,
out about it, which
and they're-
makes us a
they're
little bit
so
more
interested
enticing
in
for
it.
them. to
Okay,
come
that
to.
makes sense.
So let's go back to the Nighthawks versus Rattlers, if you will. Two totally different games.
Yes,
No matter what.
absolutely,
I don't
absolutely.
care that the name is lacrosse. They really are two totally different games. I am a old Nighthawks guy. I've got a championship ring. I was there in the
nice.
90s.
97?
At 97.
Yep.
And
Awesome.
and it's a wonderful game to watch. It's a lot of excitement, but it's a completely different demographic. It is, I made this silly kind of a connection once. And it may be silly to some, but in my mind, when I think of entertainment and marketing and that and event-driven stuff, I look at the Nighthawks as almost a WWE kind of entertainment, and it's crazy and it's outlandish, and there's lots going on, and there's music, and it's fun.
A lot of people drinking beer.
Drinking
and-
beer, and that's the
Yelling.
honest truth.
Yeah.
But then my comparison kind of falls off. But I compare the two sports the way that I would say if you've ever heard of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, that's the purity of combat, right? So the WWE is the entertainment of combat, and I'm not talking about real or fake. I'm saying the entertainment of
entertainment
combat.
factor, I get it.
And from our perspective, we're the purity of the sport. The outdoor game is it's the original game of lacrosse.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But from a visual standpoint, visual and surrounding is everything, right? You're in a wide open stadium. If you had 9,000 people there, it would still look somewhat empty. And that's just the truth.
Very true.
So it doesn't take anything away from the game. The game itself is still fantastic. I think the visual aspect is a little bit disengaging to people because the farther away you are and the more area there is, the slower the game looks.
True.
But it
Very
technically
true.
is not.
Very true.
So in that enclosed inside environment, if you went to watch an NHL game at the Winter Classic, let's take away the anomaly of a Winter Classic and how cool that is. Watch that game and watch how slow it looks from way up in the stands,
It's true.
as opposed to
very
being in a
true.
small
you were
arena.
at the,
Oh yeah, I was at the one in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true.
So, and I mean, it is a great environment, but let's just take that away and look at the game itself. So when you're in a close proximity and you're in an enclosed space, how cool is that? Now, why they sell better, and I think that has more to do with the history and the backstory of this Rattlers team, which is obviously pre-me, but that plays a lot into it. So I think if we look at that aspect, you wouldn't compare the two because the two don't have likely stories or like the same story.
Now, here's the thing that gets me, and we asked Tim Sudan about this.
Sure.
It is two different games, Major League Lacrosse and the National Lacrosse League, but it is lacrosse, and there are players that cross over, and there used to be a lot of players that crossed over, especially in the beginning of Major League Lacrosse. You think of Tim Sudan, played for the Nighthawks and the Rattlers. John Grant played for the Nighthawks and the Rattlers. Right. Now, the way the leagues are kind of not working together at all anymore, it makes it very difficult for players to cross over. Cody Jamieson from the Nighthawks is playing for the New York Lizards, but if the Nighthawks go to the championship series again, which it's looking pretty good, he won't join the Lizards until literally halfway through the season. it doesn't make any sense to me. The Major League Lacrosse moved up the season 2 weeks now, and the NLL moved their season back even farther.
Right. Yeah.
So why can the leagues not work together to promote the game?
Well, and I can only give you the perspective from what I've learned over the last year and a month. From what I've seen from how the league negotiates and the way they lay out their plans. I think number one is both leagues look at their own interests first. And I think in some capacities, unfortunately, and if you owned your own company, you kind of would think company finances first and the good of the business for growth for all before you would an individual employee. And I know that kind of sounds bad, but if you really look at the overall scope of how you run your business and you have a multitude of people to cater to and a lot of things to consider, one or two or three people may not make you make that decision. Now, are the players, in my mind, the players most important part of our business? 100%. But I don't think Major League Lacrosse and National Lacrosse League think of each other when they're rolling out their business plans. Yeah. Now, number two, totally different market demographics. So we're talking about two totally different fan bases. They cater their schedule, and it really is. I know that some people go to both, but it truly is.
Yeah, that's what gets me, because it is lacrosse. It's lacrosse.
Yep.
Lacrosse is lacrosse is lacrosse. I mean, there's different games, but it's still lacrosse.
Totally it's like indoor versus outdoor. You'll get a lot of fans who will go to both, but then you'll get some fans that'll only go to one. You'll get the purists who will go to outdoor, and you'll get the indoor fans who only go to indoor.
But speaking of, you got to look after your business model first. I get that. Now, MLL has cities in Rochester, Boston, Denver, New York, and Columbus, Ohio. It's cold in April.
And a few more, Florida and Chesapeake.
You're saying
from the weather.
It's cold in April. Right. Why would you want to move the season up?
Here's the number one reason why the season was moved up. And the other question you should ask the NLL, why they moved back, because they moved back first. So, but I mean,
they moved it back very far.
Absolutely.
The championship series is going to go to mid-June.
They could play in December. They absolutely could.
They used to,
and they used to, and still be successful. But either way, to answer your question about that, the biggest challenge Major League Lacrosse has, period, is being a majority summertime sport. Baseball. Our demographic are family, youth sports families. Okay, obviously our main target is youth lacrosse. During that time period, tournaments and family vacations are 99% of families. Basically their event planning. So we have struggled, the Major League Lacrosse has struggled in every market to be able to find that fan base that is going to be able to make every game for the most part and or be around when they're not I'm one of them. My son is at a tournament every single weekend during the summer, and I wish I could go on vacation, and if I could, I'd be gone during the summer, right? So what we know though is that when is that fan base home and able to come to a local game? It's during their spring season. So we needed to encapsulate as much time in that spring season of lacrosse as we could to maximize the number of youth lacrosse families that can make a game. And then you put into another formula, what can you do after that? Then you'll part and parcel fans. You'll be able to, but the majority of people, we struggle. Every city struggles trying to get these families out because it's okay. You can get this group because they don't have a tournament, but then you've got 6 other groups in your area that do, that are always gone. And remember, we're only a 7-game schedule, so the chance of that hitting a tournament weekend is very possible. There was talk about moving deeper into August. The only issue, I think there's a few issues, and I'm not exact on everything. A lot of it, believe it or not, has to do with some really, really harsh weather in some of the southern territories. But that's not the main factor. I know that was kind of an issue. But when you start moving towards the NFL season, you start talking about a lot of other things happening. Baseball's so big then. But historically, July's been an awful month for our league. Awful.
Really?
Yeah,
a lot of vacations in July.
So again, that goes back to what are people doing during the summer? You would think, okay, they'd come out to an event, but if they're not around, they can't commit. I can't get people to commit to 7 games. It's only 7 games, but it's a whole schedule that runs into their summertime. So selling season tickets is a struggle. People are home in spring. The kids are. This small, I don't want to say small. When you look at the grand scope of things, it's small. But for us, they're a major market for us, these youth lacrosse players. And I'm one of them. I can speak for it. I wasn't around, other than our home games, I wasn't around almost every weekend last year. So that's a big part of it, to answer your question.
Okay, and then I looked at the schedule. 6 out of the 7 home games are Sundays at 1 o'clock.
Yep.
Now, why?
Very clear reason. Because of what we just talked about. Because of the timing of moving our schedule up. The number one focus was how do we make sure that players that have other obligations during that time of year, which are, we have a lot of guys that are coaches, assistant coaches, that are parts of other lacrosse teams that have other things going on.
Probably have jobs.
A lot of them do have jobs, but that wouldn't, summertime, or most of them aren't teachers, so summertime or spring doesn't matter. But what we wanted to do is make sure that we did as much as we could, if we were going to move up the schedule, that we did as much as we could to guarantee that as many people that were in that capacity could make it to games. And this, just so you know, this was researched through the teams. This was researched with player involvement. That if we moved it up during the springtime, that, look at John Galloway for us. I mean, we couldn't have a season without John Galloway.
Oh, yeah,
you know what I mean? And he's a coach at Providence.
Oh, okay.
So we have a lot of guys. Turi, he's a coach. I'm trying to think.
It's just
so many.
Easier for them.
It is. Yes. So
to
it
play
really
on
is.
Sundays?
Now, guess what the wonderful fallback is? Two things.
What's that?
It's not awful to model and they didn't do this. This is my argument. Why is it so bad to model ourselves after football? Football goes Sundays at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, right?
I mean, the good part about it is definitely like, the home opener is coming up April 19th,
Sure.
1 p.m. Eunice
Sure.
Kennedy Shriver Stadium against New York Lizards. It's probably not going to be 80 degrees. It might,
Correct.
but it could also be 40.
Sure.
So it's probably better to play in the afternoon than at night.
Well, and that's another consideration, which is why, and not all cities do. Some of them have them at 5 or 6 or 7. We've learned, some of the feedback I got was that our fans liked the afternoon games, so that's why we put them at 1 o'clock last year,
Sunday after
and
church.
this year, right? So absolutely. So, but for us, my whole thing is we have a family demographic, and a family demographic that may or may not be busy. Kids are playing their games on Saturdays, right? Or maybe during the week. Sunday at 1 o'clock. Carnival day, have a day out in the Sunday fun day, have a day out in the sun with your family and have a good time. And, so all those things work for us. And is it the most perfect scenario for every single fan? Nothing will be, right? But what I have is the ability to take what I've got, what we've decided on doing, and focus my efforts around
Go
that.
after your targeted demographic.
Absolutely, it is.
Target, lock on,
All right.
and shoot.
Guys, we got to switch gears real quick. We're going to talk soccer for a few minutes. Joined by Mr. Wisconsin himself from the Rochester Rhinos, Tony Walls. Thank you for joining us, Tony.
Welcome to the show, Tony.
Yeah, no problem. How you guys doing?
All right. Wow. You scored one of the greatest goals I've ever seen in USL in recent memories on Saturday in Pittsburgh. Free kick from the 20. Pittsburgh set up the wall on, I don't know, the 15. Well, no, it'd be like probably the 12. Just bending it beautifully over the wall. The goalie literally was frozen. Have you ever scored a goal like that ever?
Yeah, I actually scored one last year against Harrisburg.
I do. Okay, I'm sorry. I do remember that
season.
goal. Yeah, I do remember that one as well.
No, it's all right. Yeah, I don't know. It just felt good to get it early this season and early in the game. I think it gave our team some energy. And after that, we kind of pressed them in their half and dictated the game. So it was good.
You guys got to be thrilled with the start. 2 games, haven't lost yet. Both games on the road. 0-0 tie with the Red Bulls, too. And then 2-1 victory over Pittsburgh, who you guys actually struggled against last year, even though they were near the bottom of the table. But for some reason, they had your number last year. So it's got to be feel good to get that first victory against them, especially in Highmark.
Yeah, I think they got their first win of the season against us. I think they're 0-10.
I think I remember that, yeah.
So, yeah, it was good. They got some talented guys. They got some experienced guys. So we knew they were going to come out and they were riding high off their 5-2 victory. So we made sure that, we were ready for their pressure, and we applied a little bit of pressure of our own. So, and I think we did a good job of doing that.
That's right, John. They scored Pittsburgh scored 5 goals against Harrisburg in their first week, which was amazing. I mean, most USL teams. What's that?
2 goals and 2 assists.
Oh wow!
And one guy had a hat trick, so they were feeling good. I'm sure.
Yeah, well, they're not feeling so good now after facing.
I'll say that was a
Rhinos.
quick feeling of goodness.
Yeah. So you guys got to be looking great. Of course, Tony, you were the 2014 Defender of the Year for the Rhinos. This is your second year with the team. Last year, your guys' defense was unbelievable, obviously. I mean, it definitely helped having a future MLS goalie in the net. Is that something you guys are looking to continue this year, is to kind of lead the league in defense again?
Yeah, that's something that Coach Lilly does a really good job of making sure that everyone comprehends and is on the same page when it comes to defensive organization and shape. So, you know, our defensive numbers last year were so low because I think we defend well as a team. It's not just the back line or the goalie. So, you know, everyone's working and, you know, winning second balls and communicating. So I think this group is, you know, we have some experienced guys. So I think we're going to be even better this year once, you know, the new guys start gelling and whatnot. So I'm excited.
Now, you're listed as a defender / midfielder. Are you kind of the free kick guy? Will we be seeing you take more of those? More of the bend it like Beckham's?
I mean, yeah, I guess Coach kind of designated me this, I guess, to begin the season. You know, I always joked with him last year about taking him, and I would stay after practice and, you know, work on him a little bit. And he finally let me take one against Harrisburg, and I just put it in the back of the net.
It worked out,
so,
right?
I mean, any way I can just help the team, you know, those are just moments of concentration, and, you know, it could be the difference between 3 points and 1. So, you know, I just try to make the most of them, pretty much.
Tony, you played with the Milwaukee Wave in the indoor season of the MASL.
Yeah.
You guys lost 8-2 to the Comets, they were tough. They were really tough this year in the Central Division final. What's it like for you to play? There's not a lot of guys left that play, you know, professional outdoor and indoor. What's it like for you to play both?
You know, I've always, you know, started with being an outdoor player, and you know, I actually got pretty adjusted my second year indoor. You know, got used to the boards and whatnot. I actually got to play target, so, you know, I got to score a couple goals this year, so it was a little more exciting, you know. But either way you look at it, it's just, you know, working on your game, and, you know, yeah, there's boards and whatnot, but there's a lot of similarities, obviously, between the two. So, you know, I just try to work on my game and get better, and then obviously, hopefully those things will translate to outdoor, which I guess we'll find out.
And then, you know, I'm guessing as a player from a financial standpoint, it's got to be good to be able to play year-round.
Yeah, I mean, some guys, you know, might have a different job in the off season or whatnot, but if I have the opportunity to keep playing and, you know, keep earning money, why not?
I mean, like, if I was a soccer player, if I was a soccer player and I could choose between playing indoor soccer in the winter and, like, working at Target, I'm gonna play in the MASL. Like, you know?
You wouldn't want to work at Target?
No,
right.
I'm okay.
Seems like a no-brainer, right?
Yeah. So, let's talk about. You're from.
The Badges.
I was gonna say you're from Wauwatosa, Wisconsin, which I've never heard of. I'm guessing it's a town of like 15 people and like some Badgers in the town. Am I wrong, Tony? Am I wrong? Is it a big city?
You're completely wrong.
Oh my God, I've never heard of it.
Wauwatosa is pretty much Milwaukee. You know,
okay.
From one street, it's like the closest suburb to the west.
Okay.
One street is Milwaukee, and then if you go to 65th, it's Wauwatosa. So,
all right.
It's not farmland, like I'm sure you're thinking.
See, I don't know.
I feel like everyone on the East Coast thinks that it's just all farms and dairy land.
Well, you know, that's all we're fed. I mean, we see the Green Bay Packers, and all they talk about is cheese, and, you know, you got to be pumped for tonight. We're recording this on Monday. The Badgers going for a national championship against Duke. So, you know, you got your cheese head on. I don't know. Do they do that for the Badgers, or is that just the Packers thing? I'm just wrong about everything in Wisconsin here.
You're batting 1,000.
But, yeah, my sister actually went to Madison. She played 4 years there. She's the second all-time leading scorer. So
for basketball?
I'm kind of no, for soccer.
Oh, okay, okay.
And she actually just signed to Chicago Red Stars.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah, I'm excited for her this year. But so I would always cheer for her, but I mean, I just love watching the Badgers basketball team play. They're such a team, and everyone knows their roles, and they're efficient. And I may or may not have some money riding on them.
Okay. Now, some people think that they got a little lucky the other night. It looked like a shot clock violation to me. Now, I'm a Michigan State Spartan, so to me, I didn't really care at that point. I was still sad from the first game, but you guys got a little lucky
You said
there.
you're a Spartans fan?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I saw the replay too, but I mean, what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, hey,
Sometimes you need a little luck. Huh?
Exactly. Something had to happen for Kentucky to go down. I had Kentucky going down in my bracket in the semifinals as well, but to Kansas, and wow, that did not work out. Well, it should be a good one tonight. You played college basketball for a year for Green Bay, correct?
Yeah, I did. I played my freshman year. That was always something I wanted to do. Originally, I was going to go to Marquette, but Tom Crean ended up leaving. And then Buzz Williams wasn't all about the idea, so I decided to go to Green Bay. And I had a good freshman year with soccer, so I kind of just decided to focus on that. But I mean, I think basketball is my first sport, so I always follow it. And big NBA fan as well.
Would it have been tough to play two sports through college?
Yeah, I mean, they overlap probably, 4 to 6 weeks. But, I mean, other than that, it worked out pretty well for that first year, but then it just kind of got to be too much. So I had to choose one,
So you were selected by the Chicago Fire in the 2012 Supplemental MLS draft. Tell me, how does that work? So you were sent to the PDL team for the Fire? Is that correct?
No, I was on the professional team.
Oh, you were? Okay.
I was under contract, yeah. The supplemental means, it's pretty much all just a ticket to preseason. So whether it's the first round or second round or supplemental, you all get invited to preseason, and then they decide from there who they want to sign. So I went through that whole process, picked up late in the draft and ended up earning a contract. So, that was a really cool experience. And I think I grew a lot as a player in that year playing with the guys I did. So it was pretty cool.
Very cool. And then
being close to home. So.
How did you end up in Rochester after that?
Well, I got released. They let me go, and then my agent couldn't find me a team or whatever. So it was late in the year, and then I kind of sat out the season, and then got back after playing indoor without an agent, and then my good buddy JC Banks, who you guys might know,
absolutely,
hooked me up with the tryout here, and then I got one of the last contract spots last year, and then just kind of going from there, 1 year at a time. So
very cool. Well, you know what? I mean, you seem like you have a bright future ahead of you as a defender. And I'm guessing we'll see you back in MLS at some point. Tony, good luck. You guys are going to you guys are going to Montreal this week?
Yeah, that's actually my former coach, Frank Lopez, is the head coach out there.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be exciting. Anytime you get to play an MLS side, it's good competition and good measuring stick. But I think we'll be up for the challenge.
Now, is this game at Stade Olympique? Or is the game on Saturday at Stade Olympique, or is it at an outdoor venue? Do you know?
I think it's at the stadium. Is that what you said?
Oh yeah, Olympic Stadium, where the Expos used to play.
It's at their stadium, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, well, because I know they played their first game against FC Toronto at Olympic Stadium, which is where the Expos used to play. It's where they host the Grey Cup. It's like it's where they just had the Blue Jays playing the Reds this past weekend, and they drew 50,000 people there. So I'm wondering if you guys are playing there, because it's indoors.
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. I would have to ask.
Okay. I mean, I would guess you're probably hoping you're playing indoors instead of. I think their home venue is where the Impact used to play. Stade, was it Claude Robillard? Complexe Sportif Claude Robillard, which is where back in the kind of the glory days of the A-League, and then the early USL, it's where the Impact played their home games. They used to, sell that place out, especially when they played the Rhinos. That used to be a huge rivalry, Tony.
Yeah. I heard
Rochester, Montreal, yeah. Lots of history with that.
Yeah, we hate Rhino. We hate Rhinos. That's what they used to say.
Yeah, the Frenchies were never a big fan of Rochester, but
really?
yeah,
no, they absolutely hate us.
it's a good run. So it'd be nice to see. Hopefully that the rivalry kind of comes back. I know it's obviously totally new teams now, but it should be
we'll
interesting.
have to start it off the right way.
Absolutely. Well, good luck this weekend,
They play
Tony.
at Saputo Stadium.
No, John, that's the Impact. You got to look up FC Montreal. It's a different team. It's called.
I thought you were talking about the.
No, FC. They're playing FC Montreal. Tony.
No, we're playing the Impact too. It's
Yeah, but they're called.
Like their second team.
Yeah, they're called FC Montreal.
Oh, okay.
Unless I was misinformed. But anyways, you're playing a soccer team from Montreal, and there'll probably be a lot of French-speaking players out there, and probably French-speaking referees.
They also play at Saputo Stadium.
No, they were playing
FC Montreal.
I'm telling you, that's wrong. I heard they were playing
right there.
I think that's wrong. They look complex. The club's home field is planned to be Complex Sportif Club Robillard.
The club will play
after undergoing renovations.
In 2015, the club will play home games at Saputo Stadium.
Okay. Wait, maybe John was right. All right.
Learn to read.
Maybe you guys are playing at Saputo Stadium, home of the Impact. This is quite a mystery, Tony. We have no idea where the Rhinos are playing this weekend. We just know they're playing somewhere in Quebec.
Yeah, well, I mean, doesn't really matter.
Okay. Anyways, good luck this weekend, Tony. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll have to keep in touch with you later this year.
All right, yeah, maybe I'll talk to you on Twitter or something.
All right, sounds good. Tony at TWalls20 on Twitter. All right. At TWall. Okay, you're actually right. I'm sorry.
That's because I read things.
But originally you pulled up Montreal Impact. They're not playing the Montreal Impact. They're playing FC Montreal.
Okay.
So, okay. Anyways, let's thank one of our sponsors, Dr. Brown Eye Care, 880 Long Pond Road in Greece. Conveniently located right off of 390 is your home for all of your eye care needs. They just expanded their office. It literally doubled it in size. It is absolutely gorgeous. They have a massive selection of glasses, sunglasses. You're going to need sunglasses today. I mean, now that it's spring, go to Dr. Brown, get your prescription sunglasses. They also have a great selection of specialty glasses for cycling, golf, tennis, and baseball. They're called Bollé. It's a very famous brand for sports. So specifically for sports, you can get your glasses or sunglasses from Dr. Brown Eye Care. You know, I got my glasses there. I got my contacts there. I've been going there for years. They are the best. They have the best contact technology, all the newest things for astigmatism, for whatever you need. Dr. Brown, he is wonderful. He's been doing this for almost 3 decades. So, guys, he has seen absolutely everything when it comes to your eyes. You can trust Dr. Brown, and they have a wonderful staff. Always makes me smile to talk to the very lovely receptionist there when I walk in. Give them a call today. Schedule your first appointment. If you're due for an eye exam, you know what? Head over there. Your insurance will cover the eye exam. I think it's every year or every 2 years, depending on your insurance. But give them a call. They'll tell you about all that. 227-7030. And please tell them that you heard about it on Rochester Sports Mumblings. All right, Brad, let's get back to the Rattlers here.
Okay. I enjoyed the back and forth there. You guys gave me some tips on how to handle my wife when I get home. We have a disagreement. So
there is no right way in that situation.
That's true. Happy wife, happy life.
Anyways, so yeah, the Rhinos are playing somewhere in Montreal. They played their first.
I shouldn't have said anything.
I like how he said it doesn't really matter.
I guess it doesn't.
I'm like, wherever they're playing, they're gonna try and win.
I mean, I guess that's cool for them. If I was a player, I'd want to play at Olympic Stadium. It's not Olympique. That's pretty cool. That place got some history. The Expos, 50,000 seats.
I don't know. I mean, I guess when it comes to playing, like you said, you're more focused on the game. You're more focused on beating the team. And like you said, we could be playing in a back alley as long as we bring it to them.
Anyways, okay, so last year, Yeah, I think it was last year after the season. An article was in the DNC basically suggesting that this is the last year of the Rattlers in Rochester because the league still owns the team, correct?
That's incorrect.
Oh,
That's not
okay.
correct. And I think the article you're speaking of was at least a couple of years ago,
I
possibly
think
before. I think it was
after
before
last season, it said that the MLL had decided that the Rattlers would return for 2015, but it kind of hinted that that's it.
That was the rumor, the big rumor going
Yeah.
around the community here. I know that a certain person, friend of, big super fan of ours, believed it.
Well, and they had the championship game in Kennesaw, Georgia last year.
That's correct.
After having the All-Star game the year before, both sold out.
Yep.
Now, would make sense if the league doesn't own the team anymore, that's different. But if they did own the team, it would probably make financial sense to move them to Kennesaw.
Well, I'll disagree with you a little bit.
I don't think
Now,
is true.
number one, you're absolutely right. They will put a team in Atlanta. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion that they will put a team there. They should. I was at the championship game. It's probably
Great venue, right?
It is probably the most perfect venue for a Major League Lacrosse game you could ever ask for. It's small enough where it's 8,000 to 9,000, but yet, the seats are basically right on the field, and it's all, it's completely the whole circumference of the stadium, so it's not just two-sided. It has a lot of amenities. It's brand new. It's state of the art. Great, so great for that city. Lacrosse is growing rapidly in that area. Now, to answer your question on the flip side, no, it wouldn't be an intelligent financial decision for the league or operationally to move any team, because what they want is growth. So if you take 8 and you move 1 and you stay at 8, you're not really going anywhere. Now, individually,
plus, is there an expansion fee?
There definitely is. I don't know if they call it an expansion fee, but there's a franchise fee. Sure. So if a new owner was to come in,
they'd want to sell a new franchise.
Well, they do, but you can't get closer to the number they want to be at in, within 10 years, which is like 15 or 16 teams. You can't get there by shuffling around teams. Now, is it inevitable that it won't happen? No. Is it inevitable that it will happen? No. There are many other teams in the league that are probably right at the same situation we are. Their ownership group could move them. So what I think would be great for the league, and I know the league believes this also. They want nothing more than to keep the 8 teams that they have where they're at. They love Rochester. The problem with the franchise in Rochester, and to go back to the ownership, we are owned by Jim Davis independently, who is the founder of New Balance sneakers. Now, originally, New Balance was an investor in the startup of Major League Lacrosse, but there is no conflict.
Are the players wearing New Balance? I hope.
No, we actually because our partners, which are also a corporate entity of, are like a. How do I want to say this? They're part of New Balance in a way, is Warrior. So we have Warrior, we have endemic sponsorships with Warrior and Brine and all of those. So no, we wear Warrior merchandise.
Kind of like when Jake Steinfeld with Body by Jake.
Well, and Jake's still one of our owners of the league. He's still an investor in the league. So with that said, I've been given a tremendous amount of freedom, which came at my own request. It was a conversation Tim Sudan and I had. I've known Tim forever. Our boys are best friends. And Tim told me the trials and tribulations of what has happened with the Rattlers over the years. I used to be one of the biggest sponsors when I was with Budweiser when the Rattlers came to Bishop Kearney. So I've known about them, but I haven't really followed all that much. When he gave me the insight behind, they didn't operate the team for 2 years because the team was, they moved it to Toronto. Then when it came back, they didn't really do anything. There was no front office. There were no operations. They basically just played the games. And we feel, and that's where your rumor comes in, of course, they're going to put a team in Atlanta. What a better prospect than to take the team that actually isn't even operational. But that's a different story today. I picked up the phone, called the commissioner, and this is a funny story, but true. I sat in a Wegmans Parenton parking lot for an hour and a half, and I talked him into giving me the team, letting me turn a no value proposition into a value proposition. Now, if that means someone else comes in and buys it and takes it over from Jim Davis and wants to buy it locally, great. If that means I did a great job and someone wants to invest and move it, okay, I did my job. But at the outset of our conversation, it was, there's no value here in this franchise. You've basically allowed it to disappear. I wouldn't blame them, but it's when you have the lack of interest from let's say from the city or from a fan base, which really is what happened over the last 5 years. if there's nothing there, then why would they have interest in keeping the team?
Right.
But now we're rebuilding. I took it over a year and a month ago. We've tried to. I've been given an appropriate budget to run the team. Are we still, rebuilding? We got a long way to go. Have we done a great job? I believe we have. Could we do better? I know we will. So there's a lot of little things that people don't understand. I think we've disappeared in the eyes of the people of Rochester. But we're not just a Rochester team, and I'm going to say something very emphatically here. We are a central, upstate, and Western New York team for Major League Lacrosse, just like the Buffalo Bills are in the state of New York, from Western, Central, and upstate for the National Football League. Okay, people kind of forget that. Yes, we are called the Rochester Rattlers, but we have our two biggest groups came from Buffalo and Syracuse last year, so we represent the entire area for the highest level of lacrosse.
I'm glad
in the world
that you have that point of view, because I've been wondering for many years why, the Rhinos and other teams just don't do that. It's like, because I always said,
I'll tell you one team.
I always said, how many people will drive all over, Western Pennsylvania, Eastern, Central New York to go watch a Bills game? How many people will come from Rochester and Buffalo to go to a Syracuse Orange game and gladly do it?
Yep.
And I'm saying, why can't we do that here?
Well,
There's no reason.
and I think we can.
I'm glad
and
you
I
have
think
that
the idea is to look at the reality of it. People can scoff. Well, you're not the NFL, but geez, wouldn't it be nice if we tailored ourselves after them? Why would you want to? I don't want to tailor myself after a club lacrosse team. I want to tailor myself after how the most successful sports entity there is in the world does it. So that's what I would think is why don't we want to be more like the NFL? Which I think representing ourselves regionally for the league will tell you. We're not just a Rochester team, guys. They represent all of New York except for New York City. And people need to buy into that. They need to understand that. The people in Buffalo and Syracuse really do, but they don't know about us that well because we disappeared. The Rattlers disappeared for years. And yes, did they leave a lot of people confused and bitter? Darn right they did. And that's not the way it is now. That's not who we are now. So I'm trying to change the identity. I'm trying to do my job to market ourselves correctly. And I'm going to keep saying it. It is the highest level of lacrosse in the world.
Absolutely.
Stand on the field when those boys are running the drill.
Absolutely.
Your mind will spin at how amazing they are. So,
So, Brad, I guess I had the wrong perception. After I read that article last year, and then after seeing that the team at the last minute moved out of Sahlen, I was thinking, all right, well, I guess this is just a lame duck year. This is it.
The death knell, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought. But it sounds like this is the complete opposite is true.
Yeah.
And you're actually trying to build something for the future for them to stay.
And already have, just to mind you, in 2 weeks. So I've had to do about seven months worth of work in the last 2 weeks, and I've got about a week and a half left before our home opener. And, the idea is when I took this team over, it wasn't a foregone conclusion that the team wouldn't return, but the prior year it sure was. But I think the reason that Rochester was able to stay here the year that they didn't operate and they just ran games is no one was ready to pull the trigger on Atlanta, so they didn't move the team. And that's when, ironically, my conversation started. They said they talked about it. The league and the ownership group did, and they said, let's invest in keeping this team here. We want it there. We know it deserves to be there. It's got a strong lacrosse base there. It can succeed. But there's so many elements that have to fall into place to make it work. And I will tell you, the number one thing is we are not covered because no one comes to our games, but we can't build to get people to come to our games because we're not covered. And I'm talking about the media.
Yeah.
That's why I jumped at a chance to talk to you guys. I listened to your show for the first time ever. And I thought you guys were very knowledgeable. I loved your take on it. I love the fact that one of you disagreed with the other because, I can talk to both of you. I can tell you exactly why I understand why you disagree and why you're wrong. And I can tell you why I agree with you and you're absolutely right. But there's scenarios to everything, right? I think that we're on the upswing. I do have to hit numbers. I have to do better. Yeah. This franchise has to do better to stay here because is it guaranteed we won't leave? No, but nothing's guaranteed in life.
Right. Speaking of numbers, last year you guys, I think, averaged about 1,100 paid.
I think it was like 13.
13?
Yeah,
okay.
1329 if I pick the number off my head.
So what's your goal for this year? 15, 2? What are you looking at?
I'll be honest with you. We knew what a goal was going into Sahlen, right? So we have kind of a revenue goal and then we have an attendance goal.
Okay.
And the two which is weird to say from a business perspective, they don't necessarily align with each other. That's why I don't have general $5 tickets to our games.
Will there be
That's
like,
a thing. Like,
will there be like beer and stuff sold? We're actually both wondering about
so
that.
two different questions.
Yeah,
Number
first,
one, my goals are this. Would I love to top out at 2,500, 3,000 to show growth? That's my goal. Do I actually think now we can do more? Did you see the Courage Bowl at Brockport when there was 9,800 people there? I think we can do it, okay? Because the naysayers are wrong. It isn't a locational issue, no more than any other venue is for any piece of entertainment, right? So we can overcome that. The town of Brockport has jumped behind me. I met with President Halstead from the college. He took me on a tour of the college. We had lunch. Every single person that worked there came up, shook my hand. We are so excited you're coming. I can't believe Major League Lacrosse.
That's a good point. You guys got to get the Brockport students to come out to the game and embrace it almost like it's their own team.
It's already done. That's how much we've done in 2 weeks. That the second we did this, there's so much excitement. Is Brockport the city of Rochester? No. But was anybody in the city of Rochester coming to our games? Look at the numbers. Not really.
Right.
No, so this is a new market for us. I'm not alienating the east side. I think if a group's going to come out like we had last year, we had huge groups from Fairport, from Victor, unbelievable people, unbelievable programs from Brighton and from Pittsford. They look at it and go, oh, now they're out in Brockport. But in reality, it is an extra 15 to 20 minutes. I drive it pretty much every other day from Sahlen's, from where Sahlen's location would be. But you know how many people said they wouldn't go to Sahlen's for one reason or another? So everybody's got an excuse. If you want to see the event, if you want to see the best players in the world, if you want to come out and support us, then you'll find a way and you'll do it. And it won't be any strain on your life.
They'll do it.
And I understand what some people are saying, but I'm very passionate, and you can probably tell by the way I speak that I'm very passionate and loyal to a concept, right? We're a piece of entertainment. We're going to make our entertainment better. I think our goals should be higher than just a little bit better than what we did last year. Mm-hmm. We did great numbers in a couple of games last year, which is why we got up to where we were, because we had some real stinkers in the beginning because no one knew. People even said
a lot of
Rattlers
rain, a lot of rain games last year,
three rain games, one almost lightning strike. I had the league almost pull me out, like literally as we were doing the anthem. So yeah, some challenges, but guys, we're in Western New York, right? Yeah. So in upstate Western New York, whichever you want to call it. So I can't fall back on it's an excuse. Mm-hmm. We have a great sport. We have great personalities. I've got the fastest player in the game. I have 4 of 6 award winners from last year's league award.
Thompson brothers.
Well, they're not brothers. Okay, so we've got Miles.
Yeah.
Okay, and they're cousins. So we've got Miles and Ty.
Okay.
And that's a misnomer. A lot of people, Lyle will be in Florida. But I mean, Miles Thompson now gets to take over for our former captain Kevin Lavelle, who retired.
Who was the leading scorer in the history
ended at the second, right?
He
became, and then John Gray Jr. surpassed him.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think second to last game.
I remember that double overtime game in the rain when he scored the goal, and that was the most goals ever.
Yeah,
that was
a great 721.
And that's the cool thing is most people on a Sunday will be very excited to make the drive to Buffalo to get to Orchard Park and wait in that long line and go in that parking lot and tailgate to see, national football. But like you said, a 20-minute drive to see the best lacrosse.
Well, 20 minutes more.
Yeah,
it's a lot closer for the people on the west side.
I say for a lot of people, not even who would come to the game.
Sure.
I think it's the best decision that could have been made. I really don't think people are going to really be as upset about it as some may think.
Yeah, because I think it opens up for a whole new market too. Yeah. We have a lot of people from Batavia now that are so excited. And like I said, we had an enormous percentage of our entire crowd last year came from that side. So do we want just people on Western New York side, people out in Brockport? No, of course we don't.
And it's all still the Rochester metro area.
Of course
it is.
And we're an upstate New York team. We are a New York team. So Buffalo and Syracuse will come, and we're having a huge group from Syracuse come out. So there's a lot of upside and very, very little downside anymore.
Now, to John's question, real quick, in a college stadium, how about beer and food?
Yeah, we're wondering about beer
great
and
question.
Food
great questions. So most colleges, and you'd be surprised at even with Fisher. I mean, Fisher doesn't even have bathrooms, believe it or not. And I'm not knocking Fisher. Just the way their facility's built, they don't have concessions, no ticket office, no bathrooms, nothing. They have to bring in porta potties. Brockport, we're towing the line on both. They have they have bathrooms set up, not set up. They have the actual infrastructure is. Concessions are done by the catering service that actually handles the college. So it's not an outside source. and I kind of caution myself, not yet. We're going to see how it goes. They're going to come in and run it like they would any normal event. So yes, there'll be concessions. Yes, there'll be select foods. I highly doubt there'll just be a table there with a guy with a white apron
like
putting a burger on
game.
like a high school game.
Yeah.
And it's well, except for Aquinas, right? Aquinas has got a cool little setup. They've got a nice concession.
Because that's what I was thinking. I'm like, like, will it be like you can go to the pizza stand or the hot dog stand, or will it be like you said, Jimmy's dad?
Well, and I don't know exactly, and I'm just being straightforward. I don't know how their setup is, and they don't have concession stands yet that are built into the infrastructure. So yes, will it be a mobile setup? Yes. Okay. Now there's the option that if they feel as though it's not the greatest business proposition for them to continue, maybe we have some bad weather and we don't have the big crowds like they want, or they don't sell as much. We have an agreement in place that I'm going to be free to go ahead and bring in some outside vendors. Okay. And I have some pretty cool ideas, but I want to give them the opportunity to build on the revenue.
What about the beer?
So the big question is the beer, right? So I'll preface this by saying, lost an enormous amount of money at Aquinas when I had a big beer garden there, and it was catered. It was on the field. It was perfect. It was right down. So you were standing on the field. We had an enclosed garden. We had the beer truck there. I lost a tremendous amount of money trying to do that venture. Just going to preface that. Sahlen Stadium really never sold very much product at any of our games, no matter how good the crowd was. Just didn't. Again, look at our demographic.
And most of the sales went to Nabber.
Yeah. And most of the sales went to Nabber and 2 or 3 other crazy goons, those guys. But you know what? And those are the kind of people that I truly care about, and we don't. And Nabber knows how I feel about him. The way that these things.
Sorry, Nabber.
No, but you're absolutely right. So, but look at our demographic. Look at our time frame of our games. Right. It's not going to be the end of the world. And to answer your question, right now we're working it out with the college whether we can do an alternate beer garden area. It honestly doesn't look super possible. What I would say, I don't want to be overly confident that it's going to happen, but I will tell you this: that
I was going to say, if you don't, you're going to have to check Nabber's pockets on the way in.
Well, here's the deal. But I've taken into account that, and I've already done a tremendous amount of footwork in addition to everything else I've done in Brockport. We have partners now that are going to do pre and post, which is pretty typical, but they're going to do over and above. They're going to give my season ticket holders and people with tickets a big, whether it be a big discount or free this or free that. They're going to make sure that they're taking care of our crowd, and it's just you're talking a stone's throw away from the stadium.
Will there be tailgate options?
And that's a good question. I would highly doubt it, only because the campus itself doesn't allow alcohol on premises. But in let's just look at the grand scheme of things. Okay, when you look at the financial upswing from my perspective on a lease agreement alone, this is a win-win. I would forsake the deal breaker that is not, which is selling alcohol. I'm okay with having some really nice makeshift concessions and not like a standalone brick and mortar concession because of the deal that we've got done and the options we have. Just so you know, I didn't have one sponsor that wasn't a trade last year. There was a lot of reasons behind that, and I will tell you that it mostly wasn't because I couldn't sell them. There were just not some opportunities with the agreement that we had in place. So I didn't have any financial opportunities outside of just my tickets, and that's it. A little bit of merchandise, but just my ticket sales. So you can see what kind of a financial issue that would create, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So now I have unlimited opportunity. We're going to have fan zones. We're going to have shooting contests. We're going to have all kinds of things. Plus, I'm going to have merchandise booths set up. And in addition to that, I can sell sponsorship. I've got 2 sponsors 38 or 48 hours after our deal was done in Brockport.
Very cool.
And I didn't have
Was one of them the Stoneyard?
One of them is Stoneyard. Jay Nichols is a very dear old friend of mine.
I listen to John DeTullio and Dan Moriarty every day. And all that.
Stoneyard. Absolutely. But I mean, the place is fantastic. They've got the brewing company starting up. And I mean, it's just a fantastic location and fantastic people. So yes, they were an automatic old friends of mine. And he wanted to come aboard, and they are spending money. And I've got a lot of other pans in the fire. Is that how you say it? So
sure,
poker's in the fire. So we'll see, because I don't have a lot of time. I'm meeting with the mayor tomorrow. I met with the president of the college last week. And if what we have so far is any kind of remnants of what it's going to be like from the feedback I've gotten, we're going to have a heck of a year, man. I'm telling you, I'm excited. And hey, you know what? We can all fall on our face flat, or we can all rise to the stars.
Sure.
It all just depends on how much people really want to support us, pay attention to us. And if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. And if it is, or you may be on the fence, come out and find out. And yes, we are going to cater to every single student on that campus.
Very cool.
All right.
Very cool.
Well, you heard it here, fans.
I'm very excited about this. I was planning on going to the opener anyways, just because I love lacrosse. I love the Rattlers. You see my John Grant jersey, but I'm very excited to see how this works. It sounds like you are thrilled to have your own place. It almost sounds like moving out of your parents' house into your own place to do what you want. You don't have to answer to everyone, to anyone at all. You guys can just make it your own home. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, and it really, I would have to overly agree with that. I mean, it's, great opportunities and, great things happen to people that have a positive attitude and try hard. And I really truly believe what we're trying to do here. I believe in the product. I believe in the league. I believe in the focus.
And speaking of the product, that's one thing that you don't have to worry about at all.
Oh, maybe not.
Wow, did you guys have a great team last year?
Of course we did.
A goal short of winning the Steinfeld Cup.
Heartbreaker, right?
Oh my God.
But what wasn't a heartbreaker is us being there. I shared this with a gentleman that was, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Carl Falk. He does a show with Jeff DeVeronica.
Absolutely,
Carl and I are old friends, and I said to him, we're undeterred. We're being denied, and we're unstoppable right now. This team is going to be successful, whether anybody likes it or not. And I mean, what ended up happening by the end of it? We were the regular season champs. We didn't lose a home game until the very last one, which we didn't necessarily need to win, but it would have been nice to keep that going. To build off of that is great. We had 4 of the 6 year-end awards, 4 of them out of all these teams. We had at least 1 or 2 game award, so weekly award winners in every single week. We had several Rookie of the Years, and again, I'll do my little promoter thing here, but on Saturday, April 19th at 1 p.m. at Shriver Stadium in Brockport, you got the fastest player in the game, Jordan Wolf, the big bad wolf. We got the best goalie in the game, goalie of the year, John Galloway, probably one of the single most amazing human beings you could ever meet, and he's a lot better even on the field. We got Mike Manley, who will be back after the NLL season, Defensive Player of the Year. Justin Turry will be there, Most Improved Player of the Year. And we've got this all-star defense. We got a world team, an all-star face-off guy, and then look at our offense, and then look at the guys we drafted. So for me, it's nothing but, I don't want to say the championship or bust, but that's where we're going to, man. It's going to be great. There's so much parity in the league. Every game is a nail biter. It's a lot of fun. And I'm going to do my very best to make everybody's experience at the game itself, the event. I want to have an event that someone goes to and goes, oh my God, this is great. Oh, look, there's a lacrosse game too. That's the kind of atmosphere I want. I want it to be fun. I want it to be interactive. I want people to leave knowing that their children and themselves had a great time and it was worthwhile. We're gonna extend certain ticket prices, but we're hovering around the $15, $20, which is actually very low for our league, believe it or not.
Really?
Absolutely. The average, we've got ticket packages in Florida that are ranging up and around the $1,300, $1,400 range. So, and it's the highest level of lacrosse in the world.
$1,300 to $1,400. What, you get to play in the game?
This is something though that
you can come to Rochester. You can come to our game and play. I mean, we've got stuff going on the field before and after.
This is something people in Rochester need to understand. Is these tickets are they're worth the value.
Well, listen,
they're worth the value.
If you compare them to the other lacrosse team, and we obviously all love the Nighthawks, but my only issue with them is their tickets are $35 now. It's a lot of money for a family. For a family of 4, you're going to end up spending $200. Yeah. It's a lot. The Rattlers are much more reasonally priced.
Yeah, and it is. And the only thing I can say is that, they've built their brand. They are a successful team on the field. They're successful in the stands. So they can, and along with, they have to meet their lease obligations too. That's not an inexpensive building to be in.
Absolutely.
So when you're that successful, you can start, that's how business grows a little bit. I think that there's a fine line between alienating your core group and being successful.
Yeah,
everything costs something, right? So, yeah, I would agree with you in that perspective, but let's get away from the Nighthawks, and I'll tell you that there won't be a $9 beer at my games. There won't be a $7 cheeseburger. Now people are probably like, well, there won't be any beer at your games. But let's talk about food, right? There's not going to be a $7 hamburger. So all of it will be affordable. There's no parking fee at all.
That's great.
No parking.
It's up to $10.
My merchandise,
it's up to $12. I think to park for the Nighthawks.
Absolutely. My merchandise isn't going to be 3 times
not
what
that we're knocking
my
the
cost
Nighthawks.
was. No. And it's not about the Nighthawks. This is just sports in general, right? But guess what? I'm formatted like this this with my pricing level because I'm rebuilding. I need to understand that I can't go out, but I'm not going to, and I want to be careful with this word, I'm not going to prostitute my product by offering, $5 tickets to everybody, because that basically, now with the
Undervalues
Brockport
what
student,
it is.
because we have a deal there, they wanted us to do what we could for the student body to make it affordable. You're a college kid, you're not going to spend $10. You're just not. But we want these, I want them all out. I want all 7,000 of them out. I'm going to offer them a $5 ticket with a student ID, and that's it.
I think that's a great idea.
It's absolutely, and I'm advertising in every medium in Brockport, on campus, with the radio show, with their Stylist magazine, certainly in the areas surrounding Brockport, Spencerport, Clarkson, Ogden, Hamlin. I'm getting to know all those areas real well. So, all of that is exciting for us, and we're going to make it affordable. And if you come out, you'll see how fun it is and how amazing these guys are. And when you're winning, like Coach Studian said, hey man, winning helps everything, right?
Yeah.
And it does, but it's not the only thing. I always say it's great to have a Mercedes, but if you had it parked in the woods, who cares, right? So we could have a winning team, but if we don't tell anybody about it, and if the local media doesn't, the local media that covers local sports doesn't cover local sports, then there's a problem. And
and you're
so glad that everyone agrees with us on
You're
that.
not the only one. I mean, we've had Soccer Salmon here.
Sure. I just met 2 days ago. Not met, but I sat with 2 days ago.
Oh, very cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He has the same complaint
Sure.
that they just don't cover the Lancers.
They will focus the Bills. They will focus on
Orange.
Syracuse University.
The Amherst,
that's where
sometimes Red Wings, but
and I'm not here to kind of browbeat the idea. I mean, of course you're gonna basically focus on, what's the most popular, what are the most ears, what are the most eyeballs. I get that. In my opinion, you can't call yourself a local sports show or a local sports a section if you don't really cover local sports. Now, the argument is, okay, the Rattlers aren't that successful, so we may not cover them. How do we make them successful? I need media coverage. I need somebody to tell about the games. I don't have a big enough staff to write articles, to send, all of these press releases every single game or every single week, to have someone take them and rewrite what I already wrote.
But because they're local, they should already be focusing
Absolutely.
on
But they'll
what we
cover
offer.
Section 5, right? So it's not
They do
lacrosse.
cover
It's
Section
not
5.
the game. So it's not the game. So we know that excuse is out. So what is it? Is it the fact that, because this franchise burned a lot of bridges years ago? That's not today. It's not today. If you're going to hold me hostage and hold my team hostage and hold my fans hostage for what someone did years ago or people did years ago, how are we ever going to move forward? Why don't you want, yes, everybody says we want a team here in Rochester. Well, show it.
I guarantee if
it's
it was
not like I'm not
Buffalo
doing my
Rattlers,
due diligence and putting a good product on the field or a great environment.
Well, I think that when you guys were in the championship, it was front page of the sports, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe on the website it was. I don't know. Was it?
I think
of course.
so.
Here's the deal. I was in Atlanta that week, so I could have easily.
I think it was.
That's one story. Come
Right.
on. So I've done a few. I actually, believe it or not, when I was hired, I had 4 newspaper articles done on me, and none of them were in Rochester, and they were wonderful, uplifting, great stories.
Where
not
were they?
about me. Well, I'm originally from the Adirondack area by the Potsdam, Canton area. So there were some newspapers covering there. Watertown covered, Syracuse covered, and I think one in Buffalo. And what wonderful stories, what wonderful coverage, but there was nothing locally. Now, the Rochester Business Journal did a wonderful piece on it. They did talk more about the financial aspects of the ownership group, which is still coverage, come out and tell me that we stink, that we're not doing well on the field. Come out and say and make fun of how many people are in the stands, okay? But just cover me, because whether you love me or you hate me, you have an emotion, and I want you to talk about it.
No, that's
but if
very
you
true.
don't feel
That's
anything,
very true.
I'm at a loss.
That's
so
very true.
I'm sick of hearing about Ray Rice. I'd like to hear about the Rochester Rattlers.
I would too.
How about that?
Amen. And you know what? I hope that you get on Bob Matthews' show, John DiTullio's show. I hope that you talk to Steve Bradley and just get more coverage.
Well, and it would be nice, just so you know, I'm an old college friend of Jeff DeVeronica's,
okay.
But I think that, I think there's a plan there that they have, and they're following it. I don't think it has anything to do with spite or dislike. I mean, Devo and I are old friends, I just think he has a job to do, and they're doing it. Would I like to get some ear time to be able to explain and talk about it? I mean, you guys have now known me for 45 minutes, and if you can tell me that I'm not a passionate, loyal, excitable guy,
love your energy.
you know what I mean?
Love it. I absolutely love it.
We're moving in the right direction. My goal is not just to save this franchise in Rochester, because there are endless possibilities outside of keeping the team here, right? So let's support the team. Let's keep it here. Let's keep growing. I'm not only rebuilding, I'm starting from way below. Florida Launch started last year as a brand new new franchise. I'm starting way below because people are negative about us. It's not just starting anew. We're way behind the 8 ball. I need support. I want support. And if you don't really like watching the best players in the world, and these guys, characters, what great characters. They're funny. We do autograph sessions after the game. These guys are down there with fans.
Dancers, you got a
we got
very
the
lovely
Rattlers dancers,
nice.
which we've been working on a really cool nickname for them this year, so we're hopefully going to release that.
On.
Love those girls.
They
work their butt off.
I had an idea. Okay.
I have an idea too.
No, ready? The snake bites.
I think they
How
brought
about the
that up to me.
Diamondbacks?
Yeah,
The Diamondbacks is good too. Now, are those, we're all sticking around, that's all rattlesnakes,
Yeah, because
right?
Diamondback is a type of rattlesnake.
It is, okay, yeah.
And diamonds, beautiful girls,
Yeah.
diamonds.
I kind of like that, but I had one, and now it's escaping me. But I told them, I said, "Well, can we fix the contest because I really like my idea?" But they wouldn't fix it for me.
No, I was at
better.
World Gym. I was working out when they had their tryouts, and I said, "Hey,
did they like your idea?"
Yeah, they liked it. They said, "Oh, why didn't you enter in the contest?" I'm like, "I didn't know there was one," but I'm like, "Here's my entry."
And there you go, because they only, we only have social media covering us,
Yeah.
So
media start paying more attention to our local sports.
Yeah, that's something that would be helpful. If you don't write about us because we don't have anybody coming to our games, and the only way to get people to our games is if you write about us. That's quite a conundrum to be in, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Well, anyways, I'm excited about this opener, April 19th, 1 p.m. at Eunice Kennedy Shriver Stadium in Brockport. We got to wrap it up. We're pretty much out of time here. Just some news and notes. The Nighthawks, they set an NLL record on Saturday with the least goals allowed ever in a regular season game, beating Minnesota 10-2. Matt Vince played all 60 minutes as usual. Minnesota went 26 minutes without scoring on Matt Vince. Unbelievable. That was a night after they went to Toronto and beat the best team in the league, 11-7. And that was a week after scoring 3 goals.
It's amazing, and that's what makes the game. That's what makes the game great, right? I mean, because that kind of stuff can happen. Yeah. That's what makes it great.
The parity is awesome.
Bizarre season for the Nighthawks. They're now sitting just 1 game behind Toronto for first place. I said it before. This is going to be an amazing race to first place in the East Division.
I agree.
Really exciting. So the Nighthawks, and they host Colorado on Saturday.
Junior's coming, right?
Yes, Junior is coming. The Amerks signed our boy Matt Garbowski from the RIT Tigers, who
that's great.
beat Minnesota State in an amazing college hockey upset, and then lost to Omaha. He signed for this season, the rest of the season, and all of next season with the Amerks. Really cool to have a guy who's spent his college career in Rochester to sign with the Amerks. Jordan Ruby, the RIT goalie, signed with the Toledo Walleye of the ECHL.
Awesome for him, too.
And the Amerks,
he came up huge.
Amerks had a nice line brawl on Saturday in Rockford.
So, I love to see that.
Nothing like a good line brawl.
Old-time hockey.
Yeah, what happened was Cody Bass for the Amerks was brawling with just a mutual fight, and then the Rockford guy took an extra shot at him while he's down on the ice.
Ooh.
So they both get up. The linesman could not break this up. Bass took an extra shot at the Ice Hog guy, and then another Ice Hog just came running in out of nowhere, tackled Bass, and then you just had a line brawl. So very interesting.
Reminds you of the old 93-94 Amerks back in the days when Barnaby was around. I was part of that. That's where I worked there. Yeah.
The Amerks are very understaffed right now. They don't have a lot of AHL quality talent, but at least they're showing some fight in them, literally.
Well, it's the whole organization is not doing.
No, it's the Connor McDavid.
The race for McDavid.
It's the Connor McDavid year.
How bad are we? We're bad enough.
It's definitely had an effect on the Amerks this year, but hopefully next year will be better. Red Wings are opening up this Thursday in Buffalo. The Red Wings had the best spring training I've ever seen. 11-2-3 record, including 4 shutouts. They shut out Norfolk 7-0. Durham 0-0 tie, another 1-0 shutout over Norfolk, and a 1-0 shutout over Pawtucket. I know it's just spring training, but the pitching is looking fantastic. The home opener this Saturday, the weather looks pretty good. It's going to be 50, and I think no rain as of now. So
the weather will get bad around the 18th or 19th for me.
No. We're going to have a nice day on the 19th, Brad.
Good. Glad to hear that.
John, we got to thank our sponsors, Leroy Discount Liquor.
We got to thank Leroy Discount Liquor, and you know what? What better time than now to get out there, make the very short ride out to Leroy. I can tell you, $15.99 and under, $5.99 rack for wine, which is one of my favorites. We've sampled on the show. Also, We sampled some delicious whiskey on the show. He has cases that he just got in. So give our good buddy Johnny a visit. Please don't drink and drive.
And Joey's Place, our good friend Mark Sotili, who has not been here in a few weeks, unfortunately, due to us doing the show in the afternoon. But go visit him. I have been going there a lot lately. Hopefully, I won't have to go there ever again.
You don't take care of your car.
I do take care of my car, John. Actually, that's why I've been going to Mark Sotili.
Takes care of it for you.
Right, but I take care of my car because when there's an issue, I go see Mark Sotili. So if you have any issue with your car or you just need an oil change, $15.95 oil changes if you mention our show, Rock Sports Mumblings, 936 Portland Avenue. He's been serving the community for 5 years. Exceptional service, and trust me, the most reasonable prices in Rochester. It's good to know a trustworthy mechanic, and you will find that in Mark Sotili. Give him a call. He's open 6 days a week, 319-4562. Rochester Sports and Physical Therapy 2, 125 Red Creek Drive off of Calkins Road in Henrietta. I had a knee surgery back in December. I've been going there ever since to rehab my knee. It is going great. I am so excited to get back to sports soon, all because of my physical therapist, Katie. She's been doing this for over 2 decades. She is unbelievable. They have all the physical therapy equipment you could possibly need, whether you need to rehab from knee surgery like me, you have back pain, shoulder problems, sprained ankle, anything like that. Go visit Rochester Sports and Physical Therapy 2. Here's the best part. You do not even need a prescription from your doctor. Most insurances cover at least 10 visits to a physical therapist for any reason. Give them a call today and tell them you heard them on Sports Mumblings, 334-8090. That's 334-8090. And, of course, the official bar and entertainment place of Rochester Sports Mumblings is the
beer,
Mirage, 414 West Ridge Road, where you'll see up to 25 of the hottest girls in Rochester every night of the week. They are open early on Fridays. Get there 4 o'clock after work for happy hour. Free admission. Also Saturdays, if you get there early, 7 o'clock, free admission. They are known for having the coldest beer, the hottest girls, and the best pool table in town. Trust me, guys, you don't want to go the other places. If you want some very quality entertainment and some ice-cold beer, go visit the Mirage. That is 414 Westridge Road in Rochester. I think that, of course, in our home network, rocksportsnetwork.com. We are not the only exciting podcast that you can hear on rocksportsnetwork.com. Matt and Matt on Ice is a local hockey show. We've had them both on the air. They do a great job. They really know their stuff, especially college hockey. And, of course, the Frozen Four is coming up this weekend in Boston. The Big Schmaz, a hilarious take on local and national wrestling happenings from superstar Rob Schultz and Ivan the Impaler. And, of course, Coco Beware and who's the other guys? A couple of them were at the Razor Sharks game a couple weeks ago. I didn't even know Coco Beware was actually a big deal. I don't know anything about wrestling, but these guys were a pretty big deal. There's Santino something. I don't know. Anyways, they'll tell you all about wrestling, the Big Schmaz. Local high school sports broadcast. They're going to be broadcasting some men's and women's high school lacrosse coming up. I don't know if they did one yet, but I know that's definitely in the works. So check out rocksportsnetwork.com. Also, latenightsportsradio.com. We are on there Tuesday nights at 10 p.m. And the Rhinos are opening up their season Sunday, April 26th versus New York Red Bulls 2:05 at Sahlen Stadium. Season tickets starting at just $99. It is a wonderful deal. 15 home games plus Open Cup games plus playoffs for just $99. That is a great deal. Call the Rhinos office today, 454-KICK, to get your season tickets. Brad, thank you so much. This was a pleasure to have you on. We learned so much. I am really excited about the direction of this franchise. I am really not worried about the future anymore. With you at the helm, it seems like you're going to do everything possible to keep this team here and make it successful.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity and the support from you guys.
We're going to make sure that,
and I'll be back to talk about some of our,
we would love to have you back.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, it is a big sports week in Rochester. Red Wings home opener. Rhinos are playing on the road. The Nighthawks are at home. Amherst are at home Friday. Guys, enjoy your Rock Sports Week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Good night. Support our teams.